So you're thinking about a career in ceramic painting, turning that passion into a real job.
It's definitely more than just a hobby.
Way more. The resources we've got here, they paint a really interesting picture, you know?
Hmm.
It takes artistry, for sure, but there's a lot of technical stuff, too.
It's true. It's that blend of art and craft. I mean, you're making something beautiful, but it's got to be functional, too. It has to last.
Okay, that makes sense. And I'm seeing all these different techniques mentioned: stenciling, freehand, glazing. It's like a whole other language.
There's a whole vocabulary.
Yeah.
And it's not just about how it looks either. Each technique, it affects how tough the piece is, how well it works, even like if you can eat off of it safely.
Right, right. Of course.
Like take sgraffito, for example. Have you
Yeah.
ever tried that one?
It's graffito. Sounds kind of like graffiti, but, fancy.
I see what you mean. But yeah, it's where you layer on those colored slips. It's like liquid clay and then you scratch through them.
Oh, to show the clay underneath.
Exactly. You get these really cool designs, super textured.
That's so cool. And it makes sense there are so many techniques because it's not just a flat canvas, right? It's 3D.
Totally. And the types of things you could be painting. It runs the gamut. I mean, you've got your tiles, sculptures, whole tableware sets.
Not just mugs, huh?
Well, mugs are cool too. But you get the idea. It's really varied.
Totally. Speaking of variety, the places these artists work is interesting too. I was picturing like a lone artist in a studio.
But the starving artist myth.
Yeah.
It's not always the reality.
So what, they work in like regular companies?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Studios, galleries, even some manufacturing places if they do big runs of ceramics.
Wow, okay. And get this, I even saw 3D printing mentioned.
Oh, yeah, it's having a moment.
Wild, right? High tech in the pottery studio.
People are using it for molds, for really intricate designs, even printing whole pieces. It's pretty amazing.
Definitely changes things up. Okay, so it's more diverse than we thought, more techy too. But is there actually a career here? Like, what's the job outlook really look like?
Well, the good news is people want unique stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Handmade, there's this real appreciation for things that are like one of a kind. And that's good news for ceramic artists.
So even though it's kind of a niche thing, there are jobs out there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And everything points to that demand growing, especially with things like, everyone's talking about sustainability these days.
Right, that came up a lot in the research. But how does that even apply to ceramics?
A lot of ways, actually.
Okay.
Like the materials themselves, people are using glazes made from natural stuff, sourcing clay locally. It's a whole thing.
So it's like farm to table, but for pottery.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And it's not just that. Energy efficient kilns, different ways of firing the pieces. Artists are really thinking about their footprint.
It's like the whole process then, not just the art.
Exactly. And it appeals to buyers too,
Mhm.
ethical consumption and all that,
So you could really tap into that market.
for sure. And speaking of tapping into things, all this tech we were talking about, like the 3D printing, it's not just replacing the old ways either.
Oh, right. I was going to ask about that.
It's more like
Yeah.
they work together. So you have artists using software to design these crazy, intricate patterns, stuff that would take forever by hand.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. Or they're testing out glazes digitally, or even like mocking up the whole piece before you start sculpting.
That's so cool. It's like having superpowers.
Kind of.
Yeah.
But don't worry, those hands-on skills, still super important. That connection to the clay, the little imperfections, that's what makes it special.
Okay, good point. So how do you stand out then if you're new to this? I mean, it seems like it could be competitive.
It is. And that's where a killer portfolio comes in.
A killer portfolio makes sense, but what does that even mean these days? I mean, is it all about the photos?
Photos are key, for sure. You want good ones, high quality, but it's got to be more than that.
So like how you arrange it, what you choose to include.
It's about telling your story.
Ooh, I like that. So you're not just showing the work, you're showing who you are as the artist.
Exactly. What's your style? What are you good at? Put it all out there. Someone's looking at this thinking, can I trust this person to make, I don't know, tiles for my bathroom? They want to see you can handle it.
That's a good point. So website, social media, what's the play?
You really need both these days.
Yeah.
A website, it's like your home base. You control it all. But social media, that's where you reach everyone.
Right. It's like casting a wider net.
Yep. You never know who's going to stumble across your stuff. So find that balance.
Definitely. And it's not all online either, right? These resources talked a lot about networking.
Oh my gosh, so important. Exhibitions, workshops, even just like following artists you admire online, it all leads to something.
Because it's not just about showing off, right? It's
Yeah.
learning, meeting people.
Totally. Feedback is crucial. Connections, even just having other artists' friends, it can be lonely otherwise.
So true. Okay, last thing before we wrap up RoleCatcher. We've mentioned it before, but it seems especially relevant here.
Oh, for sure. It's tough getting your name out there, especially when you're starting out. RoleCatcher can really help with that.
It's like a digital agent, almost.
Right. Takes some of the pressure off. You can focus on the art itself.
Love it. Okay, so big picture. To make it in ceramic painting, you need talent, technical skills, and you gotta hustle.
And have fun. Don't forget that part. It's such a rewarding field. Making
Uh-huh.
something real with your own two hands is pretty great.
Couldn't agree more. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground here, given you a good sense of what it takes to make a go of it.
Who knows? Maybe our listener will be the next big name in ceramics.
Wouldn't that be something? That's it for this deep dive into the world of ceramic painting. We'll catch you next time for another exploration of a creative career. Until then, happy creating!